Hey, bathroom guitarist here. I'd like to go over all blues, Miles Davis's All Blues. I know others have covered this extensively here on YouTube. They've shown us how to play it, how to solo over it. I'd like to just break down the chord changes and really definitively see what scales we can play in over those changes. Often I find that people have a tendency to just make this a little more complicated than it needs to be. You know, we get caught up in what mode. You know, the truth is we don't need to really get wrapped up in modes and where to put our fingers. I mean, ultimately our ears, you know, if we listen enough, our ears should tell us where to go. And certainly some modes in a particular scale may work better than others. So that's for you to find. But look, it doesn't really make a difference how we play this. Whether we do just a simple strumming sort of method, or we do a more advanced sort of pedal steel type lick, or even just stick to how it's recorded. What key are we in there? And the answer is simple. The G7 is the 5 chord of the key of C. We know that. You want to do your 2-5-1? D minor 7 is the 2, right? G7 is the 5, and C major 7 is our 1. So, if we're in the key of C, then we play in the key of C. You need not get caught up in Mixolydian. Although you can, I mean, it works. Obviously, it's going to work. But pretty much anything we do in the key of C will work over that G7. All right, now the next chord is what? Often we play C9. Right? So the C9 is what? It's a C7. We can play a C7 as a C9 or a C13. Once we have that 7, we can go to 9, 11, 13. I don't like how the 11 sounds as much there. It seems to lose that kind of dominant 7 sound that I feel is necessary. Now, if I do it more of as a suspension, putting that F in there that way, that 11, I don't know, it just doesn't work as well as, say, the 13 does, putting the A in. But the 9 seems to work the best, okay? So when I'm in the C9, what scale am I playing? The C7 is just the 5 chord of what key? Of the key of F. All right, so I can shift to the key of F. Now, what's the difference between the key of C and the key of F? The key of C has a B natural, key of F has a B flat, right? And you can see that when I'm playing the G7, got that B natural, whereas the C9, it has that B flat. Okay, that's the only difference. And what I tend to like to do is focus on kind of hovering around where they differ. So if I'm on that G7, right, and if I'm going to get into that C9, I'd be going from the G7 into the C9 this way. Now I get that B flat in it. Back to the B natural. Now, in an ordinary blues, we would probably just be doing a D9 or a D7. What key is D7 and D7? Again, is the 5 chord of what key? It's the 5 chord of the key of G. So if we were just in a D7, we can then play in the key of G major, which has an F sharp as opposed to the F natural that the key of C had, right? So that's where our scales differ, right? Between that G7, I'm doing a second inversion, 1, 3, 5, 7, right? It's supposed to root. Really doesn't make a difference what inversion we're playing. We can get into inversions a little bit later. but we're going from the F natural in the key of C to the F sharp in the key of G. However, we have a little bit of a problem in all blues. Why? Because in all blues, we're not playing a straight D7 or D9. We're playing a D7 with a +9, the old Hendrix chord. Now that makes things a little complicated for us. Why? Because we have both the F sharp of the key of G in there, but we also have the F natural. Or in this case, we're not really even calling it F natural. It's the +9, so the E is a 9. It is an F natural, but we really should call it an E sharp. Right? So since it has both of those in there, it kind of complicates things. Now, I've always been taught that when you're playing over that D7 +9, a great key to play in is the jazz minor scale of a half step above. So what's the half step? It would be the E flat, right? So if I played E flat jazz minor, it's, right? What's a jazz minor? Jazz minor is just the major scale with a flat 3, right? So here's the major, right? So in this case, it'd be, it's that flat 3. Now, if we're gonna start on the 7 of that, so we're gonna start on the D, right? It's a wonderful scale to use over any of those 7 + 9 chords, okay? So you can hear it. And then on all blues, what do? We go to the E flat 7 with a +9, right? And then back to the D7 +9. So what you could really do there is, I mean, it's very simple. All we need to do is just go up a half step, right? So here, right? And then resolve back to our key of C. Pretty simple. Really need not be that complicated. Just to throw something else into the mix, what I seem to like to do with that D7 +9, in addition to that jazz minor, is just play a whole tone scale over it. Now I know whole tone scales are really, ideally used when you're dealing with an augmented chord, like a 7 with a +5 or even a -5. That's where, a dominant 7 with a +5 or -5, that's where the whole tone scale shines. However, when you deal with an altered chord like a +9, it still fits. So let's take a look. Right? And then if we want to go up the half step there to the E flat 7 +9, all we need to do to resolve back to the whole tone scale associated with the D7 +9 is go up yet another half step. And we resolve that way. So let's take a look. Right, so let's see. Right? So we went, that's the whole tone of the D7 +9, back over to the, up to the E flat 7 +9's whole tone. And then we go one half step up again, we're back in the whole tone scale for the D7 +9. And then we get to that B to get back into the key of C. Right? One other thing that I like to do with this, people just, anytime you're playing the blues, they want to jump right to that minor pentatonic. I don't feel as though that minor pentatonic is going to work with that G7 because they're really focusing on that B natural here. That's where the key of C works. But one thing that definitely works here is if we put that flat 5 in, which we use in the blues scale. So the blues scale, the G blues scale would have been, right? Now, we could take that D flat and we could add that in when we're playing the key of C, just to add some extra color, and that works. So let's take a look. Right? Similarly, when we're on that C9, let's go and take a look at what the note is. The flat 5 note would be in the blues scale for the C9, right? So what are we dealing with there? A G flat. That G flat, if we add that into the key of F, that works too. So let's take a look. Back to the key of C. But again, I'm sorry. Right back to the C again. So we put that blues note in the key of F, we're using that G flat. When we're in the key of C, we're putting that D flat in. And then when we get to that D7 plus 9, if we wanted to play in a straight G, I mean, it probably would work. But similarly, we could add its particular blues note. So in this particular case, if we're playing off the D blues scale, right? So here we're putting in an A flat. Same thing works here. On that D7 plus 9, if we want to play in the key of G and add in that A flat, it's going to work too. All right, so let's see. Right, and then back to our C. D flat up there. Getting back to the key of C. Right, get that B natural back in. So these are all things that we could readily do with our old blues. I guess we'll handle inversions in a subsequent lesson. All right, thanks for tuning in. It's a flush.